America, as we know it today, was not always the sophisticated society known to people from all over the world. The over 570 tribes of natives that call the U.S. home have a rich history of cultural and religious heritage woven into the American fabric. This rich history counts several practices, customs, and traditions that could range from the interesting to the intriguing and downright disturbing today, depending on what side of the spectrum you are observing from. While only a few have retained their shape to different extents today, they remain as fascinating as ever. From curious coming-of-age ceremonies to unusual birth ceremonies and rituals, to mark the death of a loved one, the indigenous Americans had and still have their fair share of odd practice. In today's episode of our YouTube series, we explore some of the most captivating events and activities undertaken by natives, many of which today's viewers may find odd. Welcome to another exciting episode of our series, The Native Journals, where we curate and tell some of the most impressive stories about indigenous people. In today's episode, we shine our spotlight on Native American people to find 10 of their oddest practices. Before we embark on this journey to the intriguing world of native practices, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and push the notification bell on your screen. Here are 10 practices peculiar to natives, some of which you might find disturbing to some extent. Number 1. The Miigwech doll of the Ojibwa tribe. The Ojibwa tribe had an uncanny way of burying their children, and one specific practice they did in the aftermath of the child's death and burial. They would cut hair from the dead child's head and use it to make a doll of sorrow that was later given to the mother. The dead child's clothes and personal belongings were also used occasionally to make this doll, or miigwech, as it was popularly called. The people believed this doll would help comfort the mother while she grieved and keep the child in her memory. The death of a child was a tragic event that was marked in its aftermath by a period of intense sorrow, solitude, and singing of sad songs. The people, however, believed that a special place known as the Land of the Little People was the final resting place of the spirits of their dead children. They thought this place to be a place of happiness and peace. To mark the child's death, the parents of the dead child would take up a period of intense mourning. During this period, they would sing sorrowful songs, cut their hair, and avoid speaking to anybody for several days. Later, they would carefully wash the child, dress the body in ceremonial attire, and attach any symbolic objects associated with the family to the child's attire. The next series of events will include a community feast, followed by the burial, where sacred offerings are placed on the dead child's burial site. All of these events culminated in the creation of an extended mourning period, where the doll was created and handed over to the child's mother to be held for a year. This doll helped the grieving mother maintain a tangible connection with their dead loved ones. 2. The Blessing Way of the Navajo people and other beliefs. The Navajo are one of the many tribes of indigenous North Americans who have very strong views about death and the afterlife. Whenever they recorded a sudden or violent death, they would take on a series of solemn rituals to dissuade evil spirits called chindi from haunting the dead person's relatives. In some other cases, the family of a dead person will refrain from calling their names for a year to prevent calling their spirits back from the afterlife. Other than that, the Navajo also had an intriguing commemoration ceremony called the Blessing Way. The Navajo people believe that this elaborate ceremony helped to grant the dead person's spirit a safe and peaceful passage to the afterlife. For this ceremony, a hatai, or medicine man, would lead prayers and offerings to the ancestral spirits, known as holy people, before singing sacred songs and performing a purification ritual. The ritual is highlighted by one special event, the construction of a sand painting. a sacred symbol symbolizing the universe and the journey that is to be embarked on by the deceased spirit. The Hatai would create this sand painting using sand gathered from all around Navajo, with each color of sand and design of the painting representing the deceased's life. The sand painting typically precedes the ritual, where the Hatai blows smoke from sacred herbs while chanting prayers. He would then offer a bundle of medicine to the bereaved to comfort them while grieving. Number 3. The moon camp of the Yankton Sioux people. Girls from Yankton Sioux take part in an elaborate 4-day coming-of-age ceremony known locally as the Isnati of Wika Donpe, or moon camp. These girls, who have recently reached their first menstruation, engage in a series of events that are believed to help them connect with their ancestors and culture, while also furnishing them with the skills and knowledge to make them become independent, solid women. To mark the moon camp, the girls isolate themselves from the rest of the camp and build a tipi where they'll spend the next 4 days. In this place, the girls are taught to gather fruits, herbs, and wildflowers for the ceremonies and medicines used. They were also instructed to sing traditional ceremonial songs and make traditional ceremonial foods, like dried buffalo beef jerky. They would have their bath in sage water for its purifying and cleansing purposes, and then listen to their elders' stories about their culture and history. Older women also taught the girls about sex and relationships while at the camp. The moon camp was designed to help these steadily maturing girls appreciate their developing womanhood. The girls would be isolated for 4 days, taking part in various activities that could ordinarily seem unconventional to people on the outside. However, these activities helped the girls seamlessly transition to a new chapter of their lives. The ceremony has recently been revived in the Yankton Sioux Ihonto and Oyate Reservation by the Brave Heart Women's Society in South Dakota. Number 4. The Sweat Lodge. The Sweat Lodge ceremony is an intense ritual practiced by many Native American tribes in the past and even now, albeit scarcely. The Sweat Lodge is an enclosed dome-shaped hut made from bent saplings, with the floor and many other parts also covered in animal skin, and a centered pot that holds heated rocks. The ceremonies and activities that took place in the Sweat Lodge centered around spiritual healing, prayer, purification, and communion with the Creator or the Great Spirit. For the Sweat Lodge ceremony and the ritual procession, a firekeeper creates the sacred fire and heats the rocks. Next, the participants join a medicine man in smoking the ceremonial tobacco, singing special songs, or drinking herbal tea in preparation for their entry into the lodge. The heated rocks are gradually transferred to the Sweat Lodge's pit over separate rounds, with each pour serving to heat the hut to sweltering temperatures further. For each round, the medicine man pours water mixed with herbs inside the pit to heat up the hut further and release steam all over the place. The participants must bear this intense heat inside the utter darkness of the hut, all while offering prayers, chanting, meditating, and vision-seeking. It is believed that this unbearable heat helped them connect spiritually to their Great Spirit and receive emotional and physical cleansing. They believe the ceremony would purge their body and spirits of harmful toxins, chronic diseases, any previous trauma, and foul emotion. After the entire ceremony, the participants cool off in a nearby river, feeling the spiritual and physical rebirth that comes from this intense encounter. While the Sweat Lodge practice endured a ban by the U.S. government from 1885 to 1934, the 1970s witnessed a revival of this ancient practice. 5. The Sundance ceremony, the Lakota, Cheyenne, and many other plain tribes in North America take part in a ceremony known as the Sundance. This ceremony involved a lot of dancing, praying, and fasting to connect with the Creator. The goal is to seek divine guidance and give thanks to their source. To prepare for this ceremony, the participants embarked on a 4-day fast or more, with the goal being to cleanse their bodies and brace themselves for the spiritual encounter ahead. The site of the ceremony was usually remote, and the time was mainly chosen for summer, when the weather was sunny or warm. The Sundance pole, adorned with feathers and beads, would be hoisted by a few men at the center of the dance circle. Next, the participants would dance around the Sundance pole for hours, or even days, which was challenging. The dance was a demanding and innovating activity for the participants, even worsened by the fact that they danced around on empty stomachs. While this entire exercise might seem like an unduly tasking activity by people on the outside, the participants from Cheyenne, Lakota, and other native tribes usually looked forward to it. They believed that partaking in the Sundance helped them connect with their Creator and enjoy a cleansing, refreshing life in the aftermath. Number 6. The doll ceremony of the Iroquois people in the past. It was not uncommon to find a doll made from corn husks in a young woman's house. However, this was no ordinary doll. It represented the female owner's transition into womanhood and reminded her of the responsibilities that came with it. For the doll ceremony, or gehende, in local parlance, young Iroquois girls who had just reached puberty would carefully assemble corn husks. These corn husks, believed to symbolize fertility and rebirth, would be woven intricately into a doll by the girls. The girls would enlist the help of an older woman to make the doll, and they would adorn it with beads, feathers, and other carefully selected objects. During the ceremony, people from the community and the girl's family would gift her several items and encourage her while at it. The ceremony celebrated the girl's motherhood potential and marked her capacity to add value to the community as an ambassador of Iroquois values and tradition. The Iroquois doll ceremony has witnessed several centuries of change and modification, but it has retained its essence to a significant extent. It remains a tribute to this day to the place of womanhood in Iroquois society and a recognition of the step forward from girlhood to womanhood. Number 7. Vision quests. Vision quests are an important spiritual journey and exercise taken up by many plain tribes in ancient North America, including the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Lakota tribes. It is an eye-opening journey, mostly embarked on by people at important stages in their lives. This includes people entering into adulthood or adolescence and facing an uncertain time in their lives. Before embarking on this journey, the participants would fast, pray, and rub their bodies with smudge to cleanse their minds and bodies. They would also receive instruction from the spiritual leaders or elders in the community to brace themselves for the difficulties ahead and any possible revelations they might have. The participants would journey into a sacred site far removed from human habitation and settle for a secluded spot. There, they would take up deep introspection, all while fasting, praying, and eagerly anticipating the divine encounter. This encounter usually came as dreams, symbols, instinctive thoughts, emotions, or strong messages from spirits. They would later relate their encounters to spiritual leaders and elders who helped them with the interpretation. The participants would later emerge from their vision quests and re-enter their various communities, bearing fresh insight and outlook. These vision quests served the purpose of enlightenment, spiritual refreshing, and truth-seeking for the people who partook in it. The long period of isolation, meditation, and searching in often uncharted territories would seem like a dangerous venture to anyone on the outside. To the natives of the Cheyenne, Lakota, and Arapaho tribes, however, this journey was a richly rewarding experience that brought them clarity, purpose, and enlightenment. Number 8. The Blackfoot Burial Practices. The Blackfoot are a native Indian people of 4 tribes and are often referred to as a confederacy. The Blackfoot had various unique practices surrounding the death and burial of their people, and some of them make for an exciting read. Many Blackfoot tribes hold strong beliefs about death and the afterlife. They believed that death was merely a door gate away to a new life, so they prepared the dead for the journey afterward. Others feared that their deceased relatives would haunt them if they didn't prove it the best farewell possible. One unique practice the Blackfoot people engaged in is the tree burial or scaffold burial. To bury their dead, the deceased's relatives would stomp 4 fork-end poles to the ground and place short-side and cross poles at the top. They would then place the dead body at the top of the poles, sometimes adding a few personal belongings of the deceased person. Sometimes they would put the person in a fetal position, as they believed that their people departed this life the same way they came. Other tribes had more odd ways to bury their dead, primarily due to their uncanny reverence for their dead. In some parts, the tent or tip where a tribe member died was often abandoned by the deceased's family in the aftermath. A few others burned their dead along with all of their belongings in a bid to banish the ghosts of the dead from lurking around to haunt their relatives. The Apache and Navajo tribes are some of the most notable Native American tribes that borrowed these burial practices. Number 9. The childbirth practices of the Cherokee childbirth. Practices among the native Cherokees bear strong roots in the people's beliefs and culture. It involved a series of activities that ensured a safe delivery and smooth recovery in the aftermath. Childbearing was usually carried out in a small, isolated but close to a stream, lake, or water source. Midwives or any experienced female relative served as the birthing assistants responsible for supporting and guiding the expectant mothers. The Cherokee women employed several notable strategies to help process a safe delivery. They would use several herbal remedies on the women, recite various spiritual songs, dance, and offer prayers and songs to set the stage for a safe delivery. These spiritual rituals helped invoke blessings and protection from the Creator, making a safe and seamless birth even more possible. The birthing assistants would often help the laboring women with alternating hot and cold baths to relieve their pain, promote circulation, and cause them to feel contraction. The women often pulled out a special string from their bows if the child was not forthcoming. This unique resort involved singing songs or telling stories to the unborn child, with some stories meant to frighten the child out of their mother's womb. They would tell the unborn child that an old woman or a horrible person was coming to get them right away, and that the child should get your bed and let us run away quickly. For an unborn child who would be unable to hear or be moved by any such requests, this strategy was rather odd, yet it proved very effective. Many historical accounts hold that soon after these thinly veiled threats or motivation as commonly seen, the child quickly dropped to the ground where leaves were nicely laid out. Native Americans in the Pacific Northwest coastal region had a particularly interesting way and motivation to show immense generosity. During a gift-giving ceremony known as a potlatch, natives would give or destroy their possessions to the people present. The gifts exchanged among the special guests ranged from food and drinks to horses, canoes, other material possessions, and even enslaved people. The celebrants usually hosted this lavish ceremony to mark a special occasion or to show their wealth and generosity. Others even hosted a potlatch to boost their prestige and social status in the community. What is particularly interesting about a potlatch is that it could have multiple hosts. This means that the ceremony could become a competitive affair where the hosts bid to outdo themselves for the acclaim of who gave the most and best gift. The potlatch could quickly transform into a massive display of wealth and extravagance that anyone could have considered disturbing. To the tribes, such as the Haida, Coast Salish, and Tlingit people of the Pacific Northwest, these elaborate ceremonies were a means to maintain social attachment and community, and to uphold their cultural values. While the potlatch was hosted mainly by people with some level of social status or wealth, it was also a means to celebrate special life events. It was the occasion of choice to celebrate weddings, naming ceremonies, and funerals. For many people observing from afar, the various practices and acts described in this video may be amusing or extreme. Others might even find them disturbing and call for their outright end in a heart. On the other hand, the people who are native to the various practices discussed in this video have very different opinions. Their motivations and influences will need a little context, and their intention can prove odd or illogical. However, one thing is sure: these people seem to enjoy, value, or at least believe in their actions. This ends our video on yet another exciting episode of our series, The Native Journey. If you enjoyed this video and want to be alerted to other videos like this when we post them, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and push the notification bell on your screen.